Hello and welcome to episode 5 of The GOAT. So this is looking back to the game against Leeds United at Villa Park and ahead towards Wolves on Friday night. Leeds, like everyone else, probably immensely frustrating afternoon. 3 o'clock kickoff, first one in over a year. A few people said they had a bad feeling about it, and I must admit I didn't. I thought it was going to be tough. I thought it was going to be close. But I thought we'd have enough to sort of see them off, despite the fact they'd had a recently good result away at Chelsea, despite being 2 down. The worst thing that can happen to us at the moment is that we go a goal down because we seem to be sort of pretty disjointed and a bit dispirited at times trying to get back into a game. I thought we'd actually started the game quite well for the first sort of 20 odd minutes. We've been putting some decent things together. We weren't necessarily testing the keeper, and I must admit that Carl Darlow is such an average keeper. That was a frustrating thing that we weren't testing him more than we did. But we haven't really been testing a lot of keepers, especially at home, over the last 5-6 games at all. Anyway, but I thought we were playing okay. The intensity of the crowd was all right as well. I thought we were doing fine. Then comes their goal. So I mean, a lot of people are critical of Martinez for his position. I mean, that guy, he was so far out. It almost reminds me a little bit, this is going back, I know, but it reminds me of when Benito Carboni scored against Leeds. He was miles out and he just picked that top right-hand corner, or top left as you look. I don't know. If you were to ask that Leeds lad to do that again and again, would he be able to keep putting it on a postage stamp in the corner? I would say not. I'm pretty sure that Emmy, like everybody else, was just expecting a ball into the box, and judging by his position, I'm guessing that's exactly what he thought. I think it's pretty harsh. I mean, sometimes you've got to give props and say that's a fantastic strike from that distance to put it there. And at the end of the day, again, sometimes the things people miss is that Emmy's probably saved us from going 2 down. And then after we'd scored, without him, we'd have lost the game for sure. Absolutely for definite. But I just think, we look so disjointed, and it's especially after the goal. I think that was the really disappointing thing, is there was no reaction to the goal. In fact, Leeds got more on top. We got more wasteful. Then the incident with, where we're playing around at the back and almost gifting them a second goal, and then conscious sort of gesture towards the crowd. Now, for me, I think sometimes people will complain about individual players, whatever that might be, their performance, whatever they're doing. Sometimes, people need to realise you've got to separate what players have done over the course of the past few seasons since they've signed, and what they're doing in a particular game. And it's all right to criticise someone in a particular game, because you're not then saying, okay, Ezra Konsa did this, that means he's always been crap and whatever else. That's not true at all. I do think, for me, Ezra needs to be 100% focused as a captain on what's going on the pitch, and he does not need to be gesturing at the crowd in any way, shape, or form, and especially like that. If it was just sort of clapping his hands and sort of saying, like, "Come on," it was a very dismissive, what you're getting uptight about, calm down, everybody, sort of thing. Or it was to me anyway. He actually, about 5 minutes later, I think a ball went out for a goal kick or whatever, and he had a look up at the crowd then as well. And I remember thinking, you're not focused on the game. It's no wonder Calvert-Lewin's getting the better of you. He didn't, obviously, when he walked over to Tyrone Mings, which is why I think he was attaching himself more to Konsa, because he knew he had the physical beating of him. But yeah, Ezra isn't a captain. I think we all know that anyway. But yeah, just concentrate on the fucking game. Stop worrying about the crowd. I think, I have to be honest. We look at Ollie Watkins, who I think, again, you've got to separate what he's done as to what he's doing in an individual game. What he's done for us has been fantastic. He scored over 80 Premier League goals for us. God knows how many cup goals as well. Top scorer for several seasons. He's been superb for us. Absolutely brilliant. But there is no doubt for me, there is a slow decline going on. He's lost that tiny bit of pace that, whether it's half a yard or even less, but it's enough that it's not good enough for him now to be able to beat defenders for pace and put them under pressure. And I do think, since he made his comment about the fans, he has offered nothing. I noticed something mentioned by Stan Collymore on social media about, oh, he's making the runs. And I watched him very, very close against Leeds, and he wasn't. There were one or two times when, Conce is doing this thing where he stood on the ball and it goes sideways and back to him, and no one was making any sort of runs up front. And there were other times when we did progress the ball and the runs still weren't there, and it sort of came back, and a winger might check back, or a midfielder's going to check back, and then people get frustrated with them. But there was no one to aim at. There was no one making a run for a ball inside or to either side of a centre back to try and stretch them out a little bit. So yeah, I mean, I'm pretty fed up, to be honest, with players having a go at fans. I mean, sometimes it's harsh. I think the stuff that Morgan Rogers got was out of order at the start of the season. He wasn't playing well, of course he wasn't, but that sort of ironic cheer when he was playing at Villa Park and he sort of passed to one of our players for the first time in a while, and that sort of thing wasn't necessary. Sort of cheering on substitutions, I would agree, isn't necessary either. But at the end of the day, I do get the feeling that the players probably get back in the dressing room and amongst themselves and within the sort of sanctity of those four walls, I bet they fucking hate the fans. I bet there's quite a few of them really hate the fans. And it was interesting when Tammy Abraham got interviewed after the game. I think it was BBC, like Match of the Day or something. But he said, "Oh, it's fantastic playing in front of these fans. They're great and whatever." And it was like, has it been mentioned, said to do that because there seems to be such a disharmony. You've had Cash having a go at fans. I'd say at least twice this season, when he's checked back and there's been a bit of a groan and a mumble, a bit of a moan, and he sort of flung his arm in the air. That's happened twice. And I have to say, both times I think, I've looked ahead of him and there's nothing there. One time was Guess Andy was nowhere fucking near him. The other day, it might have been Brighton. I can't remember exactly, but again, there was nowhere to go anyway, unless you're expecting him just to bomb up and down at speed and put crosses in and defend as well without any help. But yeah, there needs to be a bit less of a reaction because, fans are desperate to get behind the players and all they want to see is 100%. And if they see players starting to have a go, and again, a little bit like with Bailey at the weekend, again, it was maybe a romantic thing to expect Leon Bailey to come back and be the player he was a couple of years ago. It's not going to happen. It's pretty clear. There's only so much fans can take when he's running at people and just so meekly loses the ball. But then the part before he was getting subbed, where he just threw his arms in the air and stopped and didn't even bother to run back and try and get it back. That's the sort of breaking point for fans when you see players giving up. I think, a lot of us remember the relegation squad where we had a bunch of charlatans playing for us who didn't care, weren't prepared to try, and really just took the piss out of us and the club. And we don't want to see that. And I'm not suggesting for a minute that Leon Bailey's along those sort of lines of the sort of Lescotts and Bakunas and Micah Richards and shithouses like that. But, throwing his arms in the air and giving up, it's not good enough. We see it elsewhere in the midfield. We're so soft. We lose it so easily. I know Buendia's 5'7" and God knows what he weighs. It isn't much, but, so easily knocked off the ball. And again, he gets subbed and yeah, you don't want players to be happy and smiling coming off the pitch, not bothered. I'm pleased he's bothered and he wants to stay on, but get off the fucking pitch. We need to make a change. The manager's made his mind up. He's made a change. Just get off the pitch. And he's doing his histrionics, throwing his arms around like a toddler. And it's not a good look. It's not good to see. It reminds me of Duran, when he took off in one of the European games and he was smashing the seat and he'd scored. He'd done really well, but it really isn't a good sign for me. It looks very, very disjointed. I think, we're asking the midfield, so much of the midfield without our three starters, to say to Douglas Luiz, you're new in, regardless of what you know about the club from before. You've been away for a year and a half, and you're expected to come in and just make it tick again. For me, Amadou Onana. I mean, I said a little while back before injuries that he was the one I would cash in on in the summer. I think he'll probably obviously play in the World Cup for Belgium, so he's going to get a worldwide profile. But he'd certainly be one I'd look to move on simply based on his appearance record. It's so poor. He looks to, for me, he looks to have been playing really within himself over the last sort of 3 to 4 weeks. Now, whether he's told to do that because we can't afford any more injuries or whatever, who knows? I don't know, but it's not helping us. A sort of half-assed might not be the right word, but a half-assed Onana, is it better than no Onana at all? I don't know. But at the minute, our midfield is so lame. We're just getting overrun. We're lame going forward. Bailey's offering us absolutely nothing. Ollie Watkins, again, just so very, very little. An absolute shadow of the player he was and possibly still could be. And yeah, we only really started to put any sort of pressure on when we made the subs. Barkley was better in midfield. Jadon Sancho, I'm not a fan of. It's taken him 5 months just to put a few decent performances together. But at least he was running at players and opening things up and actually creating some things. I did think a few times, a bit like the Brentford game where we passed the ball around 300 times around the edge of the box and never tested the keeper. We did that a few times where we had, especially when Tammy was actually on the pitch, that we had opportunities with, say, 3 players in and around the 6-yard box. And instead of putting a ball in to give us a chance of scoring, we were touching it back, and then it would go back again, then around to the other edge of the box. And it drives me fucking nuts that, when you've got opportunities, and especially when you're behind, to put a ball in the box when you've got 3 of your players right in the mix there, one of whom, Tammy Abraham, is tall and physical and can be a real threat. Why don't you put it in? Why are you wasting even more time just playing it round to the other side when you've got a chance to put it in? And I was pleased for Tammy again that he's gotten the end of another goal. He's looking far more likely to score at the moment than Ollie is, and I think come Friday, I really, really hope he's starting. At the end of the day, he saved us a point there. It was really difficult at the end of the game to say, well, we're lucky to get a point. If you'd have been a Leeds fan, you'd have probably said, well, we've done enough to win the game. They've created the more dangerous opportunities of making the keeper make saves. I don't think we did enough to make Darlow make any real difficult stops. And yeah, we just look very disjointed and we look quite disheartened. And at times, especially when we go behind and we lack a leader. Tyrone is a leader. He doesn't wear the armband, but I don't know. He seemed a bit less vocal, especially during those moments when the other team is celebrating and we need a bit of a lift before we get going again. Konsa does nothing. He's no captain at all. Absolutely, definitely not a captain. And yeah, I mean, there were some rumours that John McGinn could potentially be back for the Chelsea game. Maybe. I mean, that might be a bit of a push, but my word, we need him. We need him out there in some form or another, even if it's just being a sub and giving him 15 minutes or something. We desperately need him back, and then obviously Yuri as soon as possible after that. But yeah, I personally thought we had some pressure in the second half, but we weren't really testing the keeper, and weren't getting the balls into dangerous positions that we could have done at the time. And I think sometimes we're so ingrained to play it slowly out from the back, stand on the ball, let the other team just set before we try and do anything, which is really strange sometimes. It's not just possession with a purpose to it. It's just slow crawling football, and it's never gonna. I'm sorry, but it's never gonna create any sort of crowd atmosphere at all, ever. And there were times when, even when we're behind, at points when we're level, that we still can't seem to change it. Now's the time. Throw something forward. Let's get it wide quickly. Let's get it in the box where we've got people in there. We can't seem to do it. and we just run out of time. While we're at it, again, I've been a big complainant of the way we continually fuck up the pre-match music. I've seen other teams do it so well, like Newcastle are one of them. For years, have got it right. Just playing music that means something to the club in the area. Fenerbahce the other week. Again, I know it's a different country, but literally getting the fans up to fever pitch before the team come on the teams come onto the field. Now, look, that might well be different for an English crowd, of course, but I mean Newcastle do it and they get it right, and I think there's a bunch of songs we could probably play that either link up to player chants or songs from bands from the area or whatever else. My complaint is they play Hi Ho Silver Lining, and whatever you think of that, whether you like it or not, it does engage with the fans. But now they've started to dumb down the audio and play commentary off of what's going on the screen. And then, you'll just notice, and I hope everybody else does as well, but you'll notice that once that finishes, they completely lose the crowd again because they play some sort of shit dance music for 5-6 minutes before the teams come on the pitch, or it'll be an advert or something else on the screen. They absolutely lose the momentum. The team will come out. Crazy Train comes on for a bit, and it's a bit better, but it comes on for sort of 45 seconds or a minute or whatever. And then the fucking Premier League anthem starts. They have no momentum in trying to get the crowd wound up for the game at all. Of course, music's massively subjective, but I mean, there's probably 4 or 5 things that I could come up with that I think, at the minute fans would like, because it might match a player chant, or, why we don't play Ghost Riders in the Sky is beyond me, because it would be original for us. I don't think there's anybody else using it. Even if you didn't like the Johnny Cash version, there's one by the Outlaws which has got a bit more to it because it's more of a sort of like rock version of it. And the start was great, and I think it would build up brilliantly. I really do. But we just consistently miss an open goal every single time. And the other real wind up is this guy on the microphone, the one who I think he talks to either the mascots or fans or something like that. Can I just say, mate, you're not talking to a ground full of fucking 5-year-olds or preschoolers or whatever. All this stuff about, we need to hear your support from across the world. Let's get behind. It's just like, it's so fucking embarrassing. And now people around, especially where we are, started to say, like, it is cringeworthy what he says. It's really, really poor. I know they're trying, but they're getting it completely wrong. Fair enough if he wants to start the yippee thing and then everyone follows on, that's fine. But we don't need that. I don't know what it is, 15, 20 seconds of garbage beforehand. It might resonate with the under 5s, and that's great. But when you're talking to a ground of the majority of which are adults, it really isn't working, and it is fucking embarrassing. So yeah, I think there are ways we can absolutely build it better, but I don't think we're ever really going to do it unless anyone at the club wants any input from me, which I don't very much. But the point is, look around next time. Look after the last bit of sort of Hi Ho Silver Linings finish when everyone's been joining in, and just see what happens for the next 5-6 minutes. They completely lose the fans. They lose the engagement between the fans and what's about to happen. So they put this shit on, and everyone just starts talking to each other or looking around. When they did the laser show against Newcastle, same thing. People were looking around absolutely bemused at that crap that was going on, or they were filming it. So they completely lost the engagement from the fans. It could be way better, massively better. I don't know if it could be any worse. But it's something they may. Well, I think it's something they need to look at. Maybe they don't think they do. So yeah, that was Leeds, and then on to Wolves now. I mean, Wolves is, even with a 10-point Wolves who are going down, it really isn't easy. We've shit the bed there on a regular basis at Molineux. And I think one of the big things is that regardless of the league positions of the teams at the time when we play, they treat it as such a serious derby. It's almost become a bit like Blues, but they really want to get one over us. And it transmits to their players. and I've been there probably 3 or 4 times in the recent run of however many we've lost out of the last 10. And it's been the same every time. Their players have reacted. You know, the fans are so up for it. It's one of the times they fill the ground. It's like a cup quarter final at home for them or something like that. And we never react. We're playing it like, yeah, okay, this is just a game against Wolves away, and we're going to play in this way. They're playing at such a higher tempo. They're playing it in a completely different way, and in the main, they get the better of us. I think one of the few times we beat them was during COVID, and I'm sure there was one other anyway. But in the main, we've shit the bed there. Now, again, they'll be after us. They've got a good result, an amazing result, really, against Arsenal when you're 2-0 down and you're bottom of the league with 9 points as they had at the time. We really need to be up and at it, and almost feel like we need to treat this like it's the quarterfinal of a cup. Because if we go out there with that slow, lax attitude, stood on the ball, nobody's moving, they're going to be into us. They've got nothing to lose, absolutely nothing to lose. Everybody knows they're down. Of course, they're not going to survive. But I'll tell you what, if they go out and get stuck into us, their crowd will be right behind them, because they always have been. They'll be the worst thing for them would be is if we score first and maybe went 2-0 up. Of course, then they'll get on their backs and things will change. But if they get stuck into us and get the first goal, well, I fear for us. You know, we've not looked good when we've gone behind in games recently, and we're really going to have to be bang up for it. Again, I think it's going to be close. I'd like to think we've got more than enough to beat that team at the bottom of the league with 10 points. But I think it's going to be close, and it's really going to depend on how we approach the game in terms of our intensity. Because if they are more intense than us, then it's going to be quite a long night on Friday night. But I hope we can look back and say that we won 3-0 and it was really comfortable, and then we sort of head into the Chelsea game from there. But we'll have to wait and see. So yeah, thanks a lot for listening. I don't actually promote this anywhere. I don't promote it on social media. That's the bottom line. I don't promote it anywhere. So I'm amazed to get anyone listening anywhere at all. So thanks ever so much. And if you like what you hear at all or whatever, then yeah, tell a friend or whatever, and that would be massively appreciated. And if there's anything you want me to add here, or things that you think you can add yourself that I can mention, then please feel free to let me know. It'd be amazing. But for now, all the best, and here's hoping for a good result on Friday night at Wolves at the Villa.